See where we come from. It's quite the mess around here at the moment. I just moved my shop out to the farm. Raspberries. Volunteer okra is everywhere. That stuff seeds itself so easily. There's lettuce, more dill, looks like radish or beet tops maybe. This is I'm pretty sure this is going to end up being a peach tree that's from seed, so it should end up having an awesome taproot. I think that's what it is. Peas. You'll notice I got 3 different varieties of lettuce going on around here, and I would assume that they're gonna try. They're probably going to flower and pollinate at different periods of time. If they don't, doesn't matter. I'm kind of looking for seeds to pattern themselves for their development to this specific area. So if they want to mix together and create a badass Kansas lettuce that seeds itself easily and tastes mighty fine, then let them do it. So I'm not really worried about crosses. Eventually all the seed stock material will always come from this place, and it'll just always be dropped on the ground with maybe a little bit saved. There's more of that. These plants are a little bit better sized so far, getting bigger. The Russian chamomile. Then here we have blue flax, which is also seeding itself readily and easily. Cucumbers. Some sickly looking garlic right there. More cucumbers, more flax. And of course we see tons. There's many more plants of this okra that's just seeding itself everywhere. So of course in permaculture ideology, we'll just let a lot of that come on up and chop it down when it's time, leaving certain plants, I suppose, and using it for biomass. I do not want to have to continue to bring in and haul in wood chips and hay and things like this. That'd be, again, another permaculture thought process. We want to make things nice and easy, and as time goes on, and out there in nature, when we look at that situation, we can see that we are not having to go out to our rivers in our woods and apply mulch. She does it all by herself. This corner gets racked by wind, as you can see with those tall garlic plants and this particular rhubarb. This is quite the success story. Now everybody knows mint just takes over everything, but this was only planted a cup, the size of my fist last year, and it has completely enveloped this clear over. It's stretched as much as 10 feet, it looks like, maybe 12 feet from where it was initially planted, and just taken over. And that's fine. It'll come right up here to the edge in time, snuff out those lettuces, and that's okay. And I'll just have it right here along the edge where you can brush up against it, and then keep it mowed down otherwise, probably. Pokeberries, pokeweed. The chickens, again, love these things, man, and it changes the color of their yolks like crazy. It's amazing when they start eating those berries come towards late summer, going into fall. These were some bushes left when I moved into the place. They were huge. I've chopped them down and letting them come back up to regenerate or become more healthy. I believe that's an artichoke. More radish. Here's another one of the devil's claw. They're a real sticky plant as well. This is a fresh first year planting of rhubarb there. course, we see more pokeberry and this Virginia creeper starting to really cover things up where I want it to. And then the excess is going to be awesome biomass. Peas, beans, another little artichoke. The area that I'm standing in is a good example of changing your plans and taking things slowly. This, you might be able to see the color difference between some of the fresh mulch there and what's around the back and in the front part of this bed. You can also see that there's not much growing except in this particular section of the bed and around the outside. And that's because I decided that I didn't want to path through here anymore. So I threw down a buttload more wood chips, and then next year we'll start planting some more perennials in this area, and of course letting things self-seed. So over here we have an example of a 3-year bed, and here's an example of a 1-week bed. Roses. So in this bed we have tomatoes, beans growing together. Certainly see that there's some weeds in the beds at the moment. We've had good rain lately, and it's kind of, I keep up with it a little bit. In time I expect, or would desire, to have my plants growing so thickly that the weeds just don't matter. They get snuffed out. But I try to keep up on it in the meantime. And this is what that generally looks like, a little bit less weeds than this. There's some that are worse than others. You know, I don't like having the grasses much in my beds at all. So some weeds will get completely ripped up by the roots. Other weeds will just have their seed heads topped off and chopped and dropped. Other weeds completely stay, like the dandelion. Let its taproot do its thing. Hush. This is a 2nd-year carrot. So finally I'll get my carrot seed this year, and we'll get those sprinkled and spread all over the place. And look at all of the, look at how easily that okra seeds itself. Cucumbers, potatoes, something I don't eat a lot of myself, but it's awesome for the garden. They just keep coming on back and opening holes up down in there. Here we see some burdock that's just starting to flower out. Huge biomass, huge taproot. We have asparagus. And here we see an example of some of the lettuces in a place where they're thriving and loving it. Obviously they're starting to go to seed now for the year. Beautiful, awesome, let them do it. And we'll see some examples as we walk around of where lettuce is popping up, and in a place that another weed would very likely be there anyway. So I just as soon have a growy that I can eat. More tomatoes in there. Here we have another cucumber. Lots of dill that's seeding out. More German chamomile. And back over here we even have some transplants of that burdock, just because I needed to get something growing back in here. More cucumbers. The cucumbers, man, they're just an awesome chicken food, frankly, so I can't grow enough of them. When they start fruiting out, the chickens are going to be really, really happy. It's even double happy when they get to come out and root around in the rotten ones that have some bugs flying around and whatnot come fall. Trying to get some privacy over here from this stink hole. I don't know if I'll be able to do anything about the stink, but I have a dog breeder that lives next to me, of all things. So we're letting some Virginia creeper, some pokeweed there, and of course the bamboo that'll grow up and at least hide the area. This concrete pad will get a shed at some point. See where we came from there. Wrapping all the way around to the house and back over to the drive. Go this way. We'll start to see some. This is all this year hugel bed, so pretty immature, but it's already doing its thing. Got some nitrogen fixtures in there, the beans, and some things that aren't nitrogen fixtures at all, but they're still growing just fine, as we'll see. And this would be a second year hugel, which I've got 0 growing on right now, ironically. All the material that I dug from this large question mark pond slash sink is what created the hugel mounds around it. Again, we see an example here of a fine place. The lettuce just loves it. It gets so thick in there, obviously, that there's no weeds gonna grow there. And if they do, they're easy to pull, when they're the kind that need pulling anyway. Lots more dill, giant rhubarb plant. In time I will get a bridge that'll connect across here over to the other side. I wanted to get something with some pretty hefty roots growing over here on this wall, because it'll take me a while to find some rock to do the rock thing around here. So went ahead and put beans and sunflowers along, but I didn't want the sunflowers to get very big and tall because the wind would just push them over and then break the wall. So I just chopped their tops off, just kind of experiment and see what'll happen. And they're still alive and thriving, so I'm suggesting they're still putting down deep roots, and that means they're holding that top edge of that wall into place, along with the other things growing down inside, including these, whether that's wheat or barley or whatever from the straw.